There's
What's
Tom's
up?
coming on. There he is.
Hi there, it's Brian Sebastian. Movie Reviews and More, Women on TV.tv, I-247 out of Tennessee, and the Worldwide TV Network. And this is a show that I never thought I would ever do, but I've been wanting to do since 1974 when I marched in drum corps with the New London Surfers. You guys probably never heard of them except for Tom, and then Sword Excalibur, but I always knew who you guys were. I just didn't know the names. I knew the faces. I kind of knew were you guys in the line. And I was, if you could call me a drum corps stalker, because my Instagram is nut, that's who I was. My favorite number came from the number 7 Vanguard line, 73, 74. So my favorite colors came from Vanguard. That should tell you a little bit about that. So without further ado, everybody introduce yourself. Let's start with Allan first, because you came on first. Allan, who are you? Where were you in that line of Santa Clara?
So everything, my name's Allan Kristensen. Everything's based on where Paul stood, our center snare. And in 74, as you look at the line, I was just to the right of Paul.
All right, so Tom, we always knew who you are. I knew who he was because Bobby Brown, who was our instructor, always said, you need to watch this guy. I'm like, okay. And I always wanted to hear him, and I always wanted to meet him, but I never got a chance to meet him. And then I got a rumor I got to ask him later if it's true or not. So Tom, tell us who you are and what you've been doing. Because you put all this together.
Yeah, it's Bobby Craig. You said Bobby Brown.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
My name is Thomas Brown, and I marched on the end in 1974, the second year of Vanguard's undefeated season in percussion.
Okay, Lou, you came on next. Tell us who you are. Where did you march in that famous line?
Hi, everybody. Lou Ruocco. So I mostly marched on the end of the line, so sort of opposite Tom. But, you know, we kind of move around sometimes. And so 73 and 74 played snare drum. So I think Tom and I were in the same bus, so that was a lot of fun.
And Curt, where were you on that line, and what are you doing?
My name's Curt Moore. Marched in the snare line for 5 years. I was kind of between the middle and the end. I was in that middle group. The guys on the end couldn't tick, so that's why Louie and Thomas were out there, because I never ticked. But and of course, right. So anyway, I was next to Allan. Allan and I have been best friends since forever, and I've always stood next to Allan, and he was between me and Paul. So I was in between the middle and the end, happily enjoying my little space there.
So coming from the East Coast as a kid, looking up to you guys are gods. You guys, till this day, I see that line. I still have that shirt. And the only reason I'm not wearing it today because it's in my storage in Los Angeles and I'm in Vegas, unfortunately. Or else I'd be wearing that shirt right now. So I have one of these made up. It's in my storage that says Santa Clara Vanguard on it. And my mask, it says V for Vanguard, and I had it specifically made for me. That's how damn dedicated to you guys. So you guys started all of this. I wanted to announce the name Santa Clara Vanguard coming from me. From a kid growing up in Connecticut, and I never forgot that. So I want to thank you guys for inspiring my life and making me where I am today for movie reviews and more, because everything I did was based on Vanguard, and I always looked up to Gail Royer because to me he was like my father figure that I never had. So I always looked up to you guys. So with 5.7 million views a day and counting, 3.7 million views a day and counting out of Tennessee, I think of all the shows that I went to follow you guys, just trying to be like you guys. I could never be like you guys, but I pretended I could. I know your drum beats off the top of my head, starting from 1971 right up until like 1979, and then started to change. But let's start at that 73 season. When you guys first got together, what was that like? And then Tom, when you first got into that line in 74, what was that like for you?
That's to me?
Yeah.
Okay. Actually, I went out in 73, October of 73, I was in the Vanguard. So I actually got to play Fanfare and Allegro because we had a clinic in Anaheim. So that was amazing to play that piece of music, a great chart by Fred Sanford, who's the reason we're here today. For Fred Sanford, we would not be here. So I just jumped right in because I had a lot of experience on snare, and I had met some of the guys previously because like you, I was a Vanguard junkie. So I had met some of the guys beforehand, so I kind of knew some of the guys before I went out. So that was kind of neat to just be plugged in, plug and play.
And Lou, I remember your name for some reason. I don't know why, but your name comes to my forehead for a certain reason. Why might I know your name?
Well, Brian, gee, I don't know. Let's see. In '73, I was Rookie of the Year. Maybe that was ringing a bell for you. I'm not sure if we ever met.
No, we haven't met because we would be friends. I'd be calling your ass all the time.
Okay, so you were in drum corps. So what did you play snare?
I started from cymbals and worked my way up to snare.
Okay, very good. Okay, so I find myself in the corps. First of all, I came from a kind of a beat corps, and with Curt Moore. So we were just we were really close. We were trying to learn everything. We tried to learn Santa Clara stuff, and so he brought me into the line, and
I drug you into the line.
and so I mean, even before we were in the corps, he was in the corps, right? And then so I would be asking him, hey, how do you play this? How do you do this solo? How do you do that solo? So at that point, I wasn't even in the corps, but I distinctly recall the first time we had, the line was established and we were going through our exercises. And what sticks out in my mind is the first time the drum ensemble got together. And I was just, coming from the B Corps, stepping into the Vanguard, I was just amazed at the power and the accuracy of all the sections, basses and tenors and everything. And I don't know if Curt remembers, but the first time I was with the Corps, he would give me rides a lot of time to practice it. And so on the way home after that first experience, I think I was probably silent most of the way. I was just absorbed in the fact of, wow, what an amazing machine this thing is. And the caliber of everybody else in the Corps. Man, I would turn around and I would see cymbal players and bass drummers, with a pair of drumsticks, and they would be playing, parts of the snare drum show. They would have all those chops, but they're not in the snare drum line. And so that just amazed me, all that talent in that drum line. So
that's interesting because I think of, in my mind, and I go on Drum Corps Planet, a couple other things on the forums, and till this day, I think the 1974 year in DCI was the best year ever. The only corps that I can remember that had a bad year were 27 Lancers, Boston Crusaders, maybe the Aragon Rebels, and Blessed and Sack had gone at that point, and then they had one or two other corps. Maybe Des Plaines Vanguard. So from that, as you were talking about, Lou, I learned how to stick my pinky out, how you just snare drummers are playing like that. I still play like that today when I'm practicing like that. A lot of us kids copy that because we saw you guys doing it. And that's kind of what Bobby Craig was teaching us that, in the New London Surfers at that point. Talk about this. When you guys were, I'm going to skip around. When you guys were making your way up to finals, because this would have been in the day now, this would have been Allentown finals this weekend, but it would have been like an extra week back then because we ended like the third week of August. And then Memorial Day weekend was senior corps and the last of the East Coast corps, while you guys are like making your way back from Ithaca at that point. Talk about who number one challenge. Was it Madison Scouts or was it the Muchachos, their drum line? Who did you guys fear, or did you guys not fear anybody?
Well, to say that there was no competition is not really true. There definitely was competition, and people were hot on our tail. So whether it was Muchachos or Madison, yeah, it was a dogfight, but it was one in which we predominated mostly. So I just speaking for myself, by the time we got to 1974, it was, I don't know how to put this exactly. We pretty much knew we were going to win just about everything. We were so confident in our ability to be great. And that's one of the reasons, nothing succeeds like success, as they say. And when you have a level of confidence that we had, it's pretty hard to lose, because we were so confident in not just being good, but what made us so good is that we knew how to be good. We knew exactly every single piece of code that it took to walk out on the field and play perfectly, close to perfect. We just had that ability to define for that ourselves so thoroughly that that's what gave us our confidence, that we knew exactly how to walk out there and play good enough to win a drum show.
Allan, you had the same feeling?
Exactly. I'm going through my mind. I'm remembering that season right now. That was my first year in the corps also. And, I had marched 7 years in drum corps already, and everything prepared me for that year. But boy, you get in there and you don't want to mess up. And but like what Curt's saying, we were programmed, and we were we had the skills to do what we did, but you still had this focus and this desire to put it all together every single night. And that was where the focus was. It wasn't on the other corps. It was on doing your gig the best you could.
Yeah.
Thomas, what was that like for you being coming into that line? Because I don't know if you knew this, a lot of people of color looked up to you, said, I want to do what he's doing. You guys are the reason why I moved to California when I was in radio, almost the reason why I ended up in Walnut Creek, but I ended up being in Los Angeles and doing that. But even my property up there, I wanted to be close to you guys. That's just why I didn't want to go. When the Corps disbanded, I didn't want to go to Madison, even though I like Madison. I definitely wasn't going to go live in Massachusetts. And I just didn't, I made my decision in 1986. This is it. I'm going to California. I'm going to be close to Vanguard, and I want to go to the rehearsals every day. That's how I was, because of what you guys were doing. I've never been able to explain this to people because people didn't get what the hell I was talking about. Some of them didn't even know what drum corps about, but you guys can understand where I'm coming from.
I've heard a lot of that lately, like people look up to me, and that is extremely flattering to me. I had no idea that I had that impact on so many people. I guess I was one of the first to do what I did, like to leave home and move across the country and to join a drum corps. So it was fun. It was a fitting end to my drum corps career, because I had been at the top at the Blessed Sacrament. Like, we had a outstanding drum line as well. So it was a lot of fun, and I am extremely grateful that everything came together for me at the right time. Because if my corps hadn't broken up, I would have never went west. I would have stayed with my friends. So when they broke up in '72, I took a year in 1973 in the Polish Falcons, and then I was going. I wish I could have gone in '73, but my money wasn't right. So I am extremely grateful to be looked up as a role model, and grateful that I got to play with so many outstanding players. It was humbling and at the same time satisfying.
Which leads me to my next question. Is it true that you hitchhiked cross country to go to Santa Clara? Is that true?
No, that is not true.
Because let me tell you, this was the rumor that we heard. A bunch of us on the East Coast. Tom Brown hitchhiked all the way cross country to go to Santa Clara.
No, that's not true.
Okay, that's why I asked. I've had this rumor, what I was told in 1973, I got to ask this guy this one day. That's how long this has been a rumor.
That is so funny. No,
Did you ever hear that before?
I had never heard that story before.
Yes.
No, first
There was a
time.
bunch of us that said you hitchhiked. This is what happened. They said you came to watch one of the rehearsals at the Surfers or whatever in the winter, and then you hitchhiked back cross country to go to Vanguard. That was the rumor. You guys never heard this either, huh? Yep.
That's funny. I never heard that.
The things that we would hear on the East Coast about you guys. Here's another one. Tell me if this is true. Is it true during finals 73 or 74 that you guys stayed in the hotel?
Yeah.
We always stayed in hotels. We always stayed in hotels for finals.
Okay, so we didn't know that. We heard it was true. We were like, how can we stay in the hotels? Why do we have to sleep on gym floors? How did that happen? How did that come about? Because we were all jealous of you guys. How's Vanguard get to do this? And I was like, well, they deserve it, but I would like to be like that too. That was a rumor that how did that happen? Do you guys know?
If I can jump in, maybe one of you guys know more than I do, but I think it was Gail Royer's idea. It was my understanding and my feeling that Gail felt like the Corps needed that, and those kind of decisions came exclusively from him. Gail just ran everything, and an idea like taking the Corps out of the gyms and putting us in a hotel had to come from Gail, I think.
I agree.
Was it for one night? Was it for 4 nights? How did that work?
The entire time we were at finals.
So when you guys got the finals, was it for 5 days or 3 days? Because I don't know.
3 days, 4 days.
Okay.
Yeah.
Something like that.
So what was your rehearsals like leading up to Allentown, going up to there, and then I'm going to work my way back to Southern California before you guys start heading cross country. So that finals week, what was the mentality like? Because Madison's going in saying, we're going to beat you guys in 1973, because that wasn't the case. Obviously, the story is you guys out-finessed them, which is what happened. What were you guys thinking? What were you guys hearing, if anything?
Well, I mean, that confidence was there. Of course, it was spoken about before. I think what really, confidence of everybody in the line, but for me, what really topped it off was having Fred Sanford. When you have a guy like him and you feel he's got to be the best drum arranger in drum corps, and he happens to be working with your corps, and then also Bob Kalkofen at the time who worked the line. I mean, those guys, deserve an enormous amount of credit for bringing the line up to the caliber it was.
I think the week of finals is an experience that can be described where you've got a fine-tuned machine that just runs. And we were pretty self-sustaining, especially by 74. So I don't know if Louis and Allan feel this, but there was a noticeable difference between 73 and 74. The 74 line and the 74 core and the 74 music was just noticeably sharper and together than the 73 line. So anyway, by the week of finals, especially by 1974, 73, 74, and 75, we haven't got there yet. It was just self-sustaining. It was just plug and go. I don't know.
Well, leading up to 75, right, too. So I wasn't in 75, but Curt was in there.
Boo!
Tom, yeah,
Boo!
I regretted that. So it's a big regret for me because I could have marched that year, but things were going on. Oh, man.
We'll never let him forget it.
Never.
But in credit to Fred Sanford and Bob Kalkofen, by the time we got to by the way back in the prehistoric days when I marched in 71, because of those guys and their ability to prepare us and to teach us in a certain way, we were very prepared for finals. There's no question about it.
I always remember that 71 show in Dallas at VFW. That was the first album that I listened to you guys over. I was listening to drum corps music, and then my brother turned me on to Kiss. And then I listened to Kiss for a little bit, and then I went to Drum Bugle, but it was that album. But I'm thinking of this, for me, what really turned me on was listening to the 1974 DCI finals, with getting that album, waiting for it to come in the mail. Because I was not at that Ithaca show. I didn't get a chance to go to the finals until the next year. And if I could go back in time, I would have loved to have been there for prelims to see what was going on and what the mentality of those drum lines. Because I think of a young person's guide to the drum corps, that's a classic till this day. What you're hearing on that album is timeless. So Santa Clara, the Muchachos, and the Kilties, those are the three cores on that album where I play to this day. If not every other day, I'm playing it every day. It kind of gets me up. I don't drink coffee. Drum corps has been my coffee for 40 plus years. You know, when I'm walking in the hot sun in Vegas or whatever, if I'm tired, I put on drum corps. 2 seconds later, I've got a bust of energy. I don't know what it is, but that's always been my drive till this day. I'll be 60 officially in September, you know, but technically, I guess I look like 35 or 40, you know, from everybody else. But it's what you guys did that kept me alive. I've always playing that. Like I said, I know the beats still right up until 1980, right up until Stoneground 7. And then after that, that's it. Things started to change. Your favorite memories of being on tour, whether it's in the buses. Thomas, you were talking about that. So we had an all drummers bus. You guys didn't know, right? Were your buses mixed?
Yeah, you sat on any bus you like. Curt was on the cool bus. I couldn't qualify for the cool bus. So I was on bus 3. But if I may take 1 minute to go back to the finals week. We did not practice during finals week. I remember one day, Cal Coffin said, you guys go to breakfast. We went to breakfast and the whole corps is out there cleaning up and we're just chilling. That's what I remember. I mean, that was like, I was like, we're not going to practice? He's like, no, I want you to guys go have breakfast and we'll jump in when they need us.
True story.
That was funny.
Curt, that's true?
Yes.
It was one of an example of how Fred and Bob were very talented at dealing with a very talented group of students. We were kind of like we were like a fine-tuned race car. We got to a point where the last thing we needed was to practice. Right. And if you understand high degree talent and perform at a high level, you can't stay there forever. You can't keep your mind and your body at peak level for very long. And Cal Coffin had the foresight to say, you guys are done. You're not practicing. Go have breakfast. You know, we don't need to practice. Taking the drumline out and rehearsing in the sun for 4 hours would be the stupidest thing in the world. You know, so he said, and of course, this did not go over very well with the rest of the corps.
But actually, at that point, you guys have a streak going, so it makes perfect sense.
Well, we had a level of performance going. We were playing at such a high level that practicing just became, you know, we didn't need to practice. We just needed to keep our heads in the right space. But there is one thing I wanted to say, what you said about 1974, what is it that you remember? One of the things that I remember and being amazed and astounded, literally astounded by in less than positive ways and in really positive ways, was the differences in the drum corps and the differences in the drum lines. The drum lines back then just couldn't have been more different. And the difference between 74 Santa Clara and the Muchachos and the Kilties and some of these top drum lines was just, it couldn't have been more different and exciting. And you go watch other drum lines play and your jaw would be on the ground. We did the same thing other drum lines did. Other drum lines would come and watch us and their jaws would be on the ground. And we'd go watch other drumlines play, and we go, how do they do that? How do you play that way and play so cleanly? We were so indoctrinated into our way of playing clean that it was almost difficult to understand how other drumlines did it. They did. I stood in front of the muchachos and just was in disbelief at what I was seeing, because it was completely antithetical to the way we approached things and played. But those guys were ridiculous. I mean, and other drumlines. So I never forget seeing 2-7 and the Kilties and the muchachos and the Kingsmen and all these corps were. It was a time when everybody spoke vastly different languages.
And you had to wait for drum corps news. I wanted to be the first to grab drum corps news to see who was going to be there in pictures. So I was never allowed to put any pictures on my wall, but I started putting drum corps pictures on the wall as other kids were putting rock and roll people, band, Candace and all the people that are my friends today. I was putting pictures of every drum line on my wall and in my scrapbook, and I had it right up until 1985. Every single photo. I knew the history of everything. Starting at 1971, I didn't know Blessed Sax history because I never got a chance to see them in person. I never got a chance to see Death Plays Vanguard. I heard they were good. I liked the 72 show from the album. And it's because, remember those days when you had prelims? You had everybody. So as soon as I got off the bus, I would literally run to the stadium to see who I could see, because in my mind, I knew I might not be able to ever see them again, and it was the case. So for you guys, when I first saw you guys, I'm like, yes, my mouth dropped and said, I don't think I'll be able to get into that line because I might be running out due to aging, but I want to be around that corps, even if I have to move around that corps. That was in my mind. That was that's why I am that drum cornet. That was me at that kid as a little kid. Allan, think about this. Tell me about when the 74 show comes in, who started keeping track of the streak in your mind? And then Thomas, when the bells came in, because you didn't march in 73, what was that like? Because you have the same drum solo, but it's enhanced because now you got mallets in the line. Allan, go first.
So the streak, I think it was about a week, maybe 2 weeks before we started getting close to that 50 number that I was introduced to it, or I had my mind thinking about that. I think there were some other people in line that were keeping track of it, but it was Curt bringing out this giant drumstick,
notching it like a hunter.
Where is it? Bring it out, man.
Okay.
I'll have you bring it on in the next show. Go ahead, Allan.
So it was when that was introduced that I got my focus away from, the everyday grind and into this other world of, oh my gosh, we're coming up on this number. And then we hit that number, and I think the corps lost that night. And so we didn't celebrate, but it was in Canada. We had a show in Montreal or Toronto or something. And the corps won, and we had a big celebration. We had Dixie cups, and there was a big celebration. I remember we took a picture, and it was a big deal. It was really neat to achieve that number and to celebrate as a group of guys that had accomplished something. It was really special.
Yep.
When you think of that 74 show and all of a sudden they allow mallets into the line and everything, which enhanced that drum solo, which was why I love that 74 show. And in my mind, whether I'm going to bed, whether I'm listening to it for the first time, I see the 7 snares first, and then I see the triples coming in because it was just so uniform. And I think you guys had slingline drums then or something at that point, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Just that sound of that and just how they just shined and everything. That sticks in a lot of people's minds, if you guys know that. And then going from that, I remember talking to George Hopkins on him watching you guys. He was in the 7 line of the Crossman at that point. He wanted to emulate what went on with that, what you guys had come into the forefront in. And a lot of us on the East Coast, we never forgot that. We always wanted to be you guys. We never could, but we wanted to do the best we could. Marching like you guys with the little tilt, all of that stuff. It was just classic. That's why I had to ask about those two movements, because that's what we had heard. We didn't know what was true, what was in there. You know, we didn't know. But Thomas, yes, we always thought you hitchhike cross country. Anybody, I'm surprised you didn't know that rumor.
So
That was like a folklore. Because you know why I say this? Because we all thought about, if Thomas can do that, maybe we can go to it.
Wait a minute. I remember I did hitchhike across country.
All right,
it's coming
see?
back to me
I didn't
now.
make it up.
No, I'm just kidding. And it's not a tilt, it's a lean. It's the Santa Clara lean. That's what you referred to earlier. It's the Santa Clara lean.
Hey, that's why I want to hear it from you guys. We came up with our own churchin and folklore. We didn't know. Because here's the thing, we couldn't get a chance to talk to people. You guys are like untouchable. It's like, I look at it this way, it's like the Boston Crusaders. They never watched finals. You know, they was, in their mind, they were always going to make finals. If they didn't, they got on their buses and went back to Boston. And it was really interesting. So we always thought we couldn't get to go touch you guys. We were lucky to take photos. Anybody who had disposable cameras, you know, it was just that classic line, and that's how we up to everybody. If that made sense.
you know, regarding the bells and bringing the xylophone and the keys into the drum line, I think that if somebody else besides Fred would have wrote those parts, it just wouldn't have quite been the same. We came from a line where Fred Sanford was you know, working on his master's degree at San Jose State. Many or several people in the line were all working on their BA degrees in music, and Anthony Cerrone, you know, the godfather of drums. I mean, he's teaching everybody mallets and bells and keys. And then, Bob Kalkofen was working on his degree as well. I just, you know, that's just got to be musical for any drum line. It comes out in your music. It comes out, I mean, it starts with the writing, and then, of course, the talent of the people in the line performing those. But we were just really fortunate. I mean, it's the right combination of instructors and people.
Hey, Brian, I'm sorry, I want to tell you a story about the guy who played mallets. He was the snare drummer in '73, then he transitioned to keyboards. He's the godfather of Santa Clara keyboard. His name is Michael Laporta, and he passed away after the '75 season. This guy was a genius. On the bus, he would be listening to Beethoven's 9 symphonies, and he'd have the scores for all, and he's following along. This guy was incredible, and he made that thing work, and he is truly missed.
That makes sense, because it's that sound. That sound resonates in your head till this day. You know, when the timpani starts, it's just classic. It's just, you just stop. You like to hear a pin drop. I can't tell you how many times in 1980 I would play this for the in '79 the high school drum line I taught. We played in '75. We played the clocks solo, just like you guys did, the best that we could, and we won. We were the best high school band in the state of Connecticut.
All right.
I remember this one guy in front of me. He must have marched in drum corps. He was like kicking in the sand. He's like, "They stole that from Santa Clara. That's from the Bridgman. That's from 27." And I just remember just he was pissed off because we did it the best that we could, and we were really good. And again, it goes back. I got everybody to listen to you guys, whether they were horn players, whether they were playing a saxophone. They all looked up to you because this. And I went to an all-white high school. So imagine what that was like in the 70s. In East Lyme, Connecticut, where Lyme disease comes from, there was only 3 cases of Lyme disease, and there was only 3 black families out of 7,000. I was that black kid looking up to Thomas in that Santa Clara Vanguard line, coming in there, telling them, we're going to do this just like Santa Clara. We're going to march like they march. And we did. But the only difference is we had maroon and gold colors. So we dressed like the Garfield cadets. That's what our universe were. We got about 2 minutes. So I'm going to end this. It's going to be part 1 of this. Allan, give your social media link so people can reach out to you.
Oh my. I'm on Twitter at Allan K. I don't have other social media.
That's good. Thomas, you want to give yours?
I'm not on Instagram or Twitter or anything, but I can be found on Facebook at Thomas Lewis, Lewis Brown.
Lou?
So I'm not a participant in Instagram. I mean, I'm on there, but I don't really create a following. But I check in every few days. Facebook mostly. So I think it's Lou at Lou.Ruocco. I think that's it. Search my
I'm going to be
last
following you guys. You guys aren't done with me yet.
Okay. Yeah.
Curt?
I've got an Instagram page, Curt Moore, Facebook. I have a Facebook page, and I have my own website, curtmoore.com.
Okay. So this is part 1 of Movie Reviews and More, When They March, this famous line that I always looked up to, members from the Santa Clara Vanguard 73-74 show. So I'm Brian Sebastian, Movie Reviews and More, Women on TV.tv, iTunes 247 out of Franklin, Tennessee. And if you see someone without a smile, please give them one of yours because the world needs it. We will see you next week.